Then we touched upon a little bit on the service delivery model. We did discuss what are the main components of a service delivery model, irrespective of which industry you are coming from. The model is usually, these are the standard sections of the delivery model, which is like in a creation of the case, then assignment of the case, then you resolve, close, and feedback. So which comprises of your closing the entire loop, which gets started at the creation stage. Then we went into the demo. We looked at different options that we have in Salesforce, different UI options that Salesforce offers us, like what is a service console, what is a Lightning app, and then we went in a little more detail about what are the list views and what are the different components on a case page. No, and also we definitely did discuss what is this masterclass is all about and who is it for. If you missed this, the first session, please go back and watch that on our YouTube channel so that you can follow along what we have discussed this one. I will try to touch base on whatever we'll discuss a little bit last time so that you can refer and don't miss out what we're discussing today. Okay, so let's jump into the next one, which is what is an objective for today's session? I want to ensure that out of today's session, when you go out, you know what is a case ownership, what are the different channels that we could create a case via, and of course we will discuss in a little more detail about email to case and web to case. These are again few lingos that Salesforce world uses. Then we go into case feed. We did touch upon it a little bit last week, but today we are going to go deep in it and then see what are the different things in it. And then we'll jump onto Omni-Channel. You will understand what is Omni-Channel, why we are referring that as an Omni-Channel in Salesforce world, and then we go into our resolve parameters, which is a knowledge, which is one of the components in which helps resolving different cases. So that's all said. We'll see a few of the options, the change management, which I think our audience requested that we touch upon the change management and drive some of the user adoption, because you already have implemented Salesforce and you want to drive your user adoption. This topic, even if it's here now, I will cover it at the end today and briefly what we should, what are the options in front of us. So we'll jump quickly into the demo and we'll go from there. Let's jump in. So you can see I have already logged in. I already showed you guys last time how to log in into Salesforce, what are the ways and methods of logging into Salesforce. And once you land or once you log in, how you drive yourself into different applications. So if you remember, just do a quick refresher. So we go into App Launcher, where we try to find out what is our favorite app, or start typing in, or we could, as I showed you last time, we could organize our most frequently visited app on the top so that it always appears as a first app. We don't have to go in, but everything said and done, we know that if we are using Service Console and it is our day in and day out, we are coming into that application, we don't have to do this at all, because as soon as we log in, it will land on the same application that we have logged out from the last session. And we did discuss about like how the tabs are structured here: case, contacts, accounts, and you can add few more if you want to. It's again, it goes back to the business model, what we are intending to do through this application. And while we are doing it, you guys might have questions, so feel free to post all those questions. I'll definitely go through all those questions at the end, and we'll cover if something has been missed. So this is the list view that we have discussed, and you can see there are different list views. We did go through all those different list views last week. So let's jump into one case and talk about how our first topic, that is the changing ownership. Why it is important to the ownership of the case. So there are basically two things that happen in Salesforce, or there are two ways how we could put a case into. One concept is called queue based mechanism, and another concept is when the case is being owned by a single person. If you remember, I talked about the case owner field over here, which is again, it's important for us to understand why that plays a role. So this is a security mechanism in Salesforce. What it does is that, let's say, it again depends on different organization, different business context, how we want to how you want to make sure that uh, your Salesforce cases are being shared across different organization, or let's say different users in your organization, if everybody is able to access the same case, or you want to make it kind of private. In that model, like if I own the case, then I'm the only person who is eligible or was able to see everything within the case. Or you want to give that flexibility that even if I own the case and everybody else can see it. Or the third option in front of you is to put the case into a queue, which is a group of users. You're bucketing them into that queue, and everybody who belongs to that queue, they can see or do anything with the case. So there are various level of security that we could define, but let's take that example first, to that everybody can edit and view the cases at this point of time. So we'll jump into how we could assign it to different users and different queues. So normally what happens in most of the cases is that you define first different queues. If you see here, I have defined a queue called email, which means that's again a channel for me. You could define queues like based on your business needs. You could define, okay, there's a product queue, there is a service queue, or there is let's say priority one queue or priority two queue. You could define your tiers or different level of queues. So when we define a queue, what we do is that we just create it and then make sure that we give a criteria, okay, why the queue has been created, who are the users on it. So let's go into the email queue. You can see there are currently no cases in it. Very shortly, we'll go in and see how we start getting cases into it, where we'll discuss about email to cases. So I'll just go back to this one and show you what happens. Let's say this is one of the case where you'll see this is like detail of the case. I jump into the detail of the case. Without jumping into the detail, also I can see the case owner. Case owner is myself at this point of time. Let's say my supervisor sitting on it, like I'm on a holiday or I'm on leave today, and this case is being worked upon. I was working on it, I have not finished or I have not closed it. So now my supervisor wants to assign this case to another agent who is sitting in the call center. And what she or he does is that he just goes in here, change the ownership. You can see the options, like what we have is different users. So you have two options. One is the user, one is the queue, as I discussed. So you could assign it back to queue at the, like, let's say at the end of day, I want to assign all my cases back to the queue. And then the next day, whoever comes in, they picks it up, or my supervisor assigns it. Or I could simply just assign it to another user, which is probably, let's say, I just assign it to another user. I save it. So that case goes to that person, or that person then starts working on it. So this is something, it's like, this is how you change the ownership of the case. it depends on what's your organization model, as I said. So we just have to flow through that and then make sure that this thing's happening. So the next topic that we will jump in is that the different channels that we could create the cases. And that is definitely associated with the case ownership, as I said. So we could have other standard, very standard different channels that Salesforce users normally use is the motivation behind why you are going into a Salesforce system or a CRM system or into a service cloud instance. Is that either you are using an Excel, or most of the cases that I have seen is that there will be an inbox, Outlook, Gmail, or something. There will be inbox where your end customers, they are going to send emails to that particular email address, and that lands into that particular inbox. And what you do is that that is a shared inbox. You have 10 users, 20 users, 50 users, like how many number of users, they're accessing the same inbox, and they all can see the cases and or the request that has come in from the customer, and they start working or probably respond to that. But that's the traditional way. And then the whole point of moving into a CRM platform, which gives you the flexibility of this, is that you don't have to operate in that inbox anymore. What you have to do is that you just have to get that email. That email would get automatically forwarded into Salesforce system. I've already done those setups in this org, and it will create a case. So let's see how it works as an email to case, and then we'll go in detail what are the other channels and how that is going to be different. Just before we jump in onto that, you will see one more feature that is going to pop up over here, which I'm going to talk about more. So one thing that I have to do now, just understand that I have to change my status just to make sure that the email that I'm going to send is going to come in here, and I have the option of accepting or rejecting it. So here, just keep a note that I'm going to send an email from different, I have a different laptop I'm going to send an email from, and you'll see it'll immediately pop up over here, and I will start seeing the case. And that's a simple email address that I have defined for this org and org, where it will create the cases. You see, I just had sent that email, and then now it is popping over here, and it's telling me, okay, hey, there is a case. So what I do is that I just click on it, and boom, like it opens up the case, and see how many things together it did. Like it recognized from which email address this email has come from. So it tried to find in Salesforce, like in your database, who is the customer. Okay, so this person is the customer. For your information, what I've done is I've just changed this person's email address to my email address so that it tags in with that person, and it shows which account that person belonged to, and there's some information about that contact, because this is one of the key thing, right? When you get a service request, the first thing that you would like to understand as a business, as an agent, is that who is this person who has sent this email to me, and then you go into the detail of the case and then try to resolve, right? So first thing, if you go back to our service delivery model, is that I've sent an email. What happened? The case gets created. Also, the second thing happened over here a few seconds earlier when I accepted. So that's the assignment. So the assignment of the case is happening in this way, the omni-channel that we're going to discuss next topic. And then the next topic is next step is, once you have the case, the next step you go in it to resolve the case. So see, there's some details of the case here, the contact details. We also have what are the cases from the parent contact, as in the same contact, what are the other cases that this person have raised. So an agent could refer to all these things, and rather than, let's say, spending more time on it, they could give kind of a response to this person that, okay, hey, I already see there is a duplicate case there. So maybe this person is impatient or like sending different emails from different places. So I don't know what's happening. So we just can look into those detailed cases. So you just hover over it and see some details like, okay, this person has raised this case, which is, all this. Again, I want to return my order. So, and again, here also, he's just saying it in a different way and then getting it. So this could result in like multiple, incidents in your system. There is an option of merging it. I have not enabled it yet, but there is an option for you to merge the cases, and rather than having multiple cases in the system for the same issue. But let's focus on this case, how it happens. So the beauty of this doesn't end here. What it does give you as a flexibility is that here you have the case detail. Now the first thing that you want to do is email your customer. And for that, you don't have to go back and to your inbox again to respond to that customer. What you have to do is just go in and type in something. Hi, Bibhu. We have received your case. Yeah, somebody like me who is not with like somebody who is not very strong in probably typing, then you can avoid that typing as well. We are going to discuss how you can create those email templates, and that would reduce again this much extra click. So by that, you can increase the efficiency of your agents. We have received your case, and we will get back to you. You normally would not send something like this because you could set up an auto response email. I think we discussed that last week as well, which system will automatically send that first response. But then if it is, let's say, the second time, like somebody takes the ownership and then now it was saying that, okay, now I've received it. Now one of my agent is owning it and they're looking into the issue. Or if your agent already knows what needs to be resolved on it, they just respond to that. So you could include your signature. There is an option of including the signature as well, but then for this purpose, let's do just send this. So what happens is that you're going to send this email and you might receive another response from the customer, right? So, and you don't want to lose that as a context of what is the case is all about. So as soon as you can see that, like what happened on that case is that, okay, this person had sent me an email to this particular address, and system gets created the case and then case updated. Then my agent sends an email to that customer. So what happens, and there are a lot of things that this, again, a very common use case scenario is that when customer responds to your email, then what happens to that? So what happens is I'm going to respond to that particular email now from my email address. You will see what happened is the case or the email will land in the same thread. So it gives you the entire context of that case without have to jump into different platforms or different places to understand what is happening on that case. Give me a sec. I'm just refreshing my email. Yeah, I've received that. I can't show you that because that's on my different laptop. I'm just going to send you back an email. Reply. Thanks for your email. So imagine customer responded to the agent, and then you'll see immediately there will be another email which will come in and land in here. So most of the time what happens, people encounter an issue that if customer responds to that email, then it creates another case. So there are ways and means how you can make sure that that email doesn't create another case, rather it understand that, okay, this is the case where I have to make sure that this response or the reply of my customer is getting attached to. So let me refresh and see if that has happened or not. See, like immediately now that response has come in here. Thanks for your email. So it's there on the same way. So here you could potentially go in and resolve the entire case by understanding what is happening, and if you're responding to the customer. So this is the beauty of having the email to case in the same thing. And similarly, we could have another channel which is called web to case. It's very similar to what it is here. It's just that it's a different way. It's not the email that the person is sending. Rather, they're going onto your portal and entering some details. So I've just created a very basic portal for us. This is, by the way, this is customer community of Salesforce. It doesn't have anything. It's very basic at this point of time. I'm just going into, let's say, if I go into somewhere and then just try to contact through a different channel, that's my website. And it's simple in Salesforce. You don't have to create a customer community for it. There are ways that we could give, we eventually generate an HTML from Salesforce and give that to our customers. So customers put that on their websites. Let's say you have your own website, maybe on WordPress or maybe on any other platform that you're running, and you just want to update that. So there's a piece of HTML code that needed to be updated in the backend of your website, and that will ensure that that is getting into Salesforce. So you don't have to go in through this model, but then it's what happens in that, like, this is a community. So that's why I've given more flexibility in here, where I could search the contact or create a new contact and attach to that contact, or I could just enter the subject and description and submit, which would essentially create the case for me in a quick fashion. So if I go back, I have other ways also to do it. As I discussed about, one more channel that we have is live chat, which I'm going to discuss in detail about that in the next session. So on this, during this session, I'm just going to show you that if you don't have agent online, then it again follows the same methodology like your web to case. So let's click on it. Just refresh. I think yeah, contact us. Just click, yeah. So I'll just enter. Like, you could choose what are the fields that you want from them. Like, if you want to ask your customer more detail, you could ask them. But I've just created a very simple request for return maybe mail. You'll notice there is something different that happens here. It just submits it and gets submitted. And you could have the exact same functionality on your website where you are sending that email. I've not created a proper page for our understanding, because it could vary from business to business. It depends what are the fields that you want. So anyway, we just have sent that through. We should be able to see something here as an open case. See immediately another case that popped up over here, which is this. You see that is different is that if I'm sending by email, my system is looking at the email address and attaching that to the email. But on the web to case, that functionality is there, but you'll have to do some amount of changes or configurations in the backend to do that. It's not by standard, it is not there. So out of the box, you will not find it. We'll just need to do some customization to make sure that that happens. So here I can search for the contact. You can see what are the frequent contacts. So as soon as I attach the contact, it goes back to the same thing that we just saw from the email to case. So what's the difference between these two? I think from the reporting point of view, you will see the difference is the case origin. So the case origin is the thing that matters. You might want to understand from your general report that what are my different sources of cases, so that you could implement different strategies to deflect that. If it is coming through email, a lot of cases you're receiving through email, or actually you're receiving a lot of cases from websites. nowadays, of course, everybody's moving onto the website thing because people are more, people are not relying so much on email anymore, but that is not a channel which is dead. Definitely, it is still pretty much on. It is still pretty much used, though you probably would hear that email channel is getting dead and all, but then that is not the fact. At least what I see day to day is every customer, they still have the email channel, which is still being used. Okay, so let's go into here and then see case origin. And as I said, we have other options that we could fit it in here: email, phone, web, Twitter, Facebook. I could also have another one like chat. You could have WhatsApp. Let's say if you have a WhatsApp as a source, you could integrate that with Salesforce, and that would also enable you to see that, okay, case has been origin from WhatsApp. So you could run your report and target your strategies into that particular channel, or whichever channel it is not performing well, you could get rid of them or try to assign less resources into it, so as to say. Yeah, so and then probably the subsequent thing that you'll do is that you'll type, probably change certain, categorization of the case. As I discussed last week, we could have multiple different options here. You could define your custom fields however you like, what are the level of detail that you want to capture at the case level. So then we jump into the next section, which is called feed. And you can see this section is called feed, and it has multiple sub tabs, so as to say here. You already have seen what is the functionality of post. I did show that last time. Then we just now saw what we could do with the email. So I'm not going to discuss that. So next topic is log a call. You could, if you received a call, then you could log the call and logs that as an activity. Then the next step is updating a case. You could notice that I do have a small update case section here, whereas I have more details here. So it's again how you are increasing the efficiency of your agents. Like, do they really want to go through the big screen, scroll down? Because if you, let's think about, this is a very minimalistic page layout where we have only 5 or 6 fields. Think about the business context where you require to categorize this into 20 or probably 30, 50 fields. So in that case, you need to break it down so that your agent understands, okay, what are my top priorities? What are the things that I need to categorize first before I move in and resolve the case? So this is a section, probably, this is something you want. The first thing that they should do is accept the case, start working on the case. The first thing that they do is change the status to in progress, so that you understand the case is being looked after. As a supervisor, you can look at, okay, this is in progress. That means this particular agent of mine is looking into that, and you can save it, or you update the priority. And if this is coming as medium, I don't think this is medium. This is a low priority. I'll just categorize that as low as anything. And then you can see there is one more component, social. I'm not going to show you in detail today because that'll be too much for today. I'm going to show that the next time. That's social and live chat. Those are the things that I'm going to show you in the next section, next session. For today, this is the feed that I would like you guys to understand in detail, and understand that you have flexibility to have more and more tabs. Obviously, you don't want to populate this with too many subtabs because that will be too crowded and may not be so useful. So it's a happy medium that we need to always find out how much is enough for my agent. And here you can see what are the emails, what are the call logs, any text posts, or if there is any status changes. All those things are there. If you look at all the updates, or you're just interested in some of the section-wise and kind of updates. We talked about different channels. I hope you guys understood what are the different channels, and you would be thinking that how am I going to make sure that my different agents can accept different channel cases? Uh, you could have, let's say, a team of people who are experts in handling a particular type of channel, or they could be expert in handling multiple channels. I have seen customers who say that, okay, if there is an email that comes in, my agent takes almost, whatever the time that requires to resolve a case that comes through email. And if there is another case that comes through live chat, that takes half of that time. So they assign the working capacity of the agent and the load of individual work order, or let's say, so as to say, individual case by the definition of the origin, and based on that, system does some calculation and assign the case. And that is why we jump onto our next topic, which is very important and exciting, is omni-channel. You see there is a very kind of a small wizard over here. It's a component that Salesforce gives. So this allows you to avoid any kind of cherry picking of your cases. So this used to be a traditional way where either a supervisor would come in and then assign the cases to relevant agents, or agents would come in and then just see the list of cases that is there in the queue, and they will start cherry picking. So what you're doing here, you are avoiding and distributing your cases with a different expertise that your person or agents could have. So omnichannel comes with two basic items. One is the capacity based. So that means you're defining what is a maximum cases that my agent can handle, or a single agent can handle. Uh, you could go into different granularity in there, like uh, one email to case and two live chat, or let's say one phone. If somebody's talking over the phone, then they can't handle any other case. So one phone case. So you're giving kind of your capacity to your agent, and at the same point of time, you're defining how much is of that capacity is consumed when a case getting generated from different channels, if that makes sense. I'll just rephrase it again. So what you're doing first, you're giving a capacity to your individual agent. You're saying, okay, my agent can handle two cases or five cases, or whatever it is, the number of items. But at the same point of time, you're defining each channel cases, or each channel, the work items that is coming in, how much of that total capacity is getting consumed via this. You could define by percentage, you could define by the number as well. Like you could say that, okay, if it is an email to case, it takes 70% of a person's time. So the person has capacity to capture another 30% of the time. So you could assign something which is 30%. Let's say you define live chat is a 30% capacity. Or you could define, as I gave you an example of the phone, where you can one phone, if that comes in, that is 100% of the capacity. And in that process, you define different channels. Like I could define available for case, available for chat. I could make myself busy, I'm on break, I'm offline. All these things taken into consideration, and Salesforce does a round robin for you as soon as the case comes in, is that it will assign, go via who is the most available. So there is a feature again in the omni-channel. It can assign the cases based on the availability of the agents. So if we route the cases based on our availability, so whoever is most available based on the capacity and the other things that we define, Salesforce will automatically assign that. You don't have to understand all this complexity at this point of time, because that's something we, as a usually implementation partner, we ask those questions and then take care of it. If you have an admin, obviously they would be more interested in it, but I'm just trying to focus on that, how you use this omni-channel is you switch on for that particular channel, I'm available, or as an agent, I'm available for that particular channel. And as soon as you switch on, the case would flow in and then start appearing over here. And then I take the next action is that I go in and then work on it. if that makes sense. So you could also see there is another wizard over here, or the component here, which is called history. It shows you that, okay, what are the things that I've worked on recently. If you want to jump over to something, it's again at your discretion whether you want to have this or not. You could have even more footer components so that you could do those things quickly rather than jumping out of the console. I hope that's clear for you guys. Omni-channel, it's an important concept to understand, but then the whole thing is that why it is called omni-channel is because irrespective of what channel that you're talking about that we discussed, it could be Facebook, Twitter, WhatsApp, it could be your web, it could be your email, everything comes into the same funnel and gets passed through your agents based on their availability. So you don't have to think about or remember, okay, I have to switch on my this or that different widgets or go out of this window itself. So that is that we discussed about the assignment and the resolution of the case. We're jumping in between just to make sure that we understand the relationship between them. So next important topic over here is knowledge. So what is knowledge in this context is that you got, let's say, the agents, you have few new agents and few very well-trained agents. How do you make sure that the quick way or the efficient, very effectively let's say trained agents or experienced agents solving the case can also be done the same fast way by your newer agents? How do you enable them that to do this? Apart from learning the platform, of course, how to use this, there is a nice feature in Salesforce, which is knowledge, which enables not only your newer agents, also your trained agents, that if something comes up and if I already know how to solve it, let's not waste time to again reinvent the wheel and then try to find out. I already have that knowledge of my organization, how to do it. And what happens in Salesforce knowledge is that I have set it up that based on the subject that is coming on the case, like, and you looked at like this case itself, what I did is that the subject is request for return, and Salesforce is smart enough to surface the knowledge that potentially match this particular case. So you don't have to do anything. You just have to look at, okay, this is how you return, how to return my order. So you know, okay, these are the things that I have to take care. These are the steps you return my order. So because the case subject says request for return, it says it may not be relevant, but then you at least it is surfacing the first possible option, and at the same point of time it is giving you the option of searching for a knowledge. Let's say if there is something else, it also gives you that option. So in here, you could, so the best thing that you could do is that if this particular article is helping you resolving this particular case, that means Salesforce, you're saying Salesforce, yes, it's a good suggestion that you have given me. So what I do is that I attach that article to the case. So I'll tell you why it is important to do or follow this practice is uh, in Salesforce, there is a model already there, which is called Einstein knowledge. What it does, it looks for this behavior. So if you start using this feature more and more and more through the agents, it trains the system that, okay, this is very much relevant. And over, I think once you do some 1,000 cases and attach them with the articles and all, then Salesforce will start surfacing here let's say it could happen that your subject contains something which is relevant for multiple knowledges, so multiple knowledge articles. So in that way, it suggests you there are, let's say, 3 articles which could make sense for this particular service request, but what is the relevancy, like what is 90% relevance or whether it's 60% relevant for this kind of, and that is learned by the system based on the behavior of your agents over the period of time. So based on how many articles they are attaching to that particular type of cases. So there are a lot of flexibility on it, like how we define those parameters, like what is the type of the case and when you're attaching it. So there could be multiple parameters that we could take consideration here. But that's a good feature that you should be able to leverage down the line once you start using it for a longer period. But that is how your knowledge is going to help you with the case. But what is actually the knowledge is? So let's go to the knowledge and see what a knowledge is. So consider knowledge as a library of your system. So it's, if you enter into a library, you look for you're searching for a book. So what are the things that you search for? So you'll go into the library, you'll see different sections. There could be fiction, non-fiction, romance, all those different sections, sci-fi. What are the sections are there? You'll go to that section first, and then you will see each of this section, the books are arranged either by author or the first letter of the author. So there could be different level of granularity that you assign to that particular book, so that your user or your customer could find that. So in this instance, what you're doing as well is there is a concept called categories that is called, here it is called as categories, but then backend it is called data category. So at the high level, you could assign that, you create a type of knowledge in your database, and then you assign what kind of category it is. So I can't edit it because at this point of time it is already published. So I'll have to edit as a draft and then show you guys. So let's edit this particular knowledge so that we could at least see what happens. So this is a typical FAQ type knowledge. You could have different types of knowledge where you are giving more detail about step-by-step guides, how to or maybe product setup. You could embed a lot of images. So I've just created a very simple one, but you could define your own. So, and once you edit this, again, you have to republish it and assign it to different groupings. And look at this section here. It allows you to restrict whether this particular knowledge is only visible to your internal users, or it is visible to your external users. So if you remember, I just showed you a basic portal here, and this portal is like something that we call as a community, where you could enable your knowledge base to be exposed on the community, and you could just create simply a help center. Your customers can come in, search for that particular issue, they would find the resolution, and that's how you deflect your customers not to create a case, because that's not necessary, and that's probably is not required for your agent to consume any further time to resolve that case. They could self-service, and you save some time of your agent. So there are other tools and methods also to deflect, like you can have your Einstein chatbot, which should essentially answer for in place of agent. You don't require an agent to answer those redundant questions. You could enable them on your chatbot, like every time customer comes in, ask for order status. Okay, give me the order number. The chatbot could take the order number and surface the status, rather than asking that question through live agent or sending an email, unnecessary email. So those are the things that you could definitely achieve to deflect your cases. I think during this time, it is really important that we do it. And as you can see, this is what is enabling your uh, distribution of your agents or distribution of your customer or call center is not dependent to have as a team in a single room. You could allow them to work from home, but you empower them with all this knowledge. So, which is, I think, is very important at this point of time, how we leveraging these things. So you can see how there are multiple ways and means to collaborate with your agents in between, and how you can also enable your knowledge to give more power to your agents to serve the customer. You don't have to sit in an office to do it. As long as you have a laptop or you have a system, you could do it from your home. I'm pretty sure a lot of customers are doing it at this point of time. So yeah, I didn't edit it. So as I said, like, you could have more categories associated with it. So that's the analogy that I gave you, is how we categorize all those knowledge. I'm not going to discuss a lot about knowledge because that's going to take a lot of time, but then this is a basic uh, block how you could structure your knowledge and have different types of knowledge. So here I've just defined a FAQ. You could define different types of articles in here. One of the other parameter here you see, was this article helpful? So there is a thumbs up, thumbs down. So this is something, once it is surfaced on your customer portal, they could vote, and you can run a report and see how useful your knowledge is and how it is helping your customers. So if it is not helping much, then definitely there is something that you need to do on it. You just have to edit it, or probably delete it, or do something about that knowledge. So you could run all those reports and understand, as long as it's not published, it will not help you. So it needs to be published so that it surfaced either as a case resolution within the case or on your portal. So that's all about. I think that's the topic that we decided today to discuss about. I hope I helped you guys with all this. So now we will jump back to our slide deck, and we talk a little bit about the change management. I'm not going to talk about a lot about the change management because that itself calls for a huge discussion, huge topic. But I think just to make sure that you guys understand how you can plan for your Service Cloud implementation on the row, like when you're doing it, and get all your users to use it appropriately. Because if there is a nice tool with you and your users are not using it, there is no point of using it. So let's jump back here, and I will go into this quickly. I'm just doing a time check. We have 10 minutes left. Okay, so we can spend some time in here. So what is that we need to do? There's a very basic, I think, few points that we have to make sure from the start of the project, is that we have an organization leader who is making noise about this new application. So let's say you decide to go into the journey of having Salesforce Service Cloud. As an From day one, not every user of yours would jump in and then use it. So you have to make sure an executive sponsor who is an organization leader is making the noise that, okay, hey, we are going into this, and what these are the benefits. Because it, more often than not, it happens that when people in the organization hear their leaders speaking about something, they're more prone to adopt it. So that's something we need to make sure that, there are a lot of different ways and means to do it. So as I said, we'll discuss that in a detailed manner whenever we have that kind of session. But that's something you have to start doing as soon as you go into or decide the journey of getting into Service Cloud. Then one other thing that you have to do is, once you have the Service Cloud in your pocket, or you already have implemented it, what you do is you train users. Just don't train, you start training your probably top users. So you think that, okay, these are my champions, and who could I train? Just don't train them. Train everyone who is going to work on it. You start with small, but then make a plan to go big and train everybody. And just don't let them go after training them. Like, that's not going to end there. You have to also keep constantly reminding them, understanding if there is a pain point they can't use the system. Because usually what happens when you ask an implementation partner to implement Service Cloud, they would come in and talk to us kind of specific, probably a few only specific number of people who would have given the requirement, and then the build would have happened based on their requirements. But at the same point of time, not every user has the same pain point or the same learning curve that they can go through. So ask for feedback, retrain them. So that's why training is really important, to keep them engaged in it, and create those change champions. So why it is important to create those change champions is that because they are the people who a lot of the agents in your, probably in your call center, would look up to. Let's say your team lead, who can discuss about and say the nice things about Service Cloud. And it's not only saying nice things about a particular platform, it's about showing them what is the benefit that you're getting by using that particular platform, how it is going to improve their life, day-to-day life. If there is nothing in it, so it's like, everybody asks that same question, like, what's in it for me? So if there is nothing in it for that particular agent, then they'll probably not be motivated to use it. So the change champions would be able to drive it because they are internal to your organization, and they can drive it at the level that everybody understands. And then I think another important parameter is using gamification. I have a lot of customers who use this, like having a challenge. Okay, how many cases you have solved? You can put a big TV on your monitor on your call center and show, okay, whoever has resolved maximum cases in a day, they get a clap or something. You could show all these beautiful dashboards, which we're going to discuss about in the next session, and drive user adoption. As a person, let's say if you're a team lead or somebody, and then you want to monitor whether your people are using the system or not, you could actually go into, there is an adoption dashboard which comes as part of Salesforce. Again, you could see how many times they're logging in, how many tasks they're creating, how many cases they're closing, what is the age of the case that is currently there with a particular agent. All those nice reporting that you could, a dashboard that you could do as a team lead in or supervisor in your company, in your call center, and take rightful action for your agents to adopt it. And you have to drive the adoption. Otherwise, if you don't drive it for enough, that falls down, and then it doesn't result in the strategy that you wanted to achieve by using this particular platform. With all this said, I think I'm just going to open the forum for Q&A. Just before that, I'm going to talk about what's next. So this is what we're going to talk about the next session. So live chat. Then there is entitlements and milestones. You can have service contracts, how you're going to manage your SLAs, how you're going to escalate a case, and how does a supervisor console looks like, what is the report, what are the reports and dashboards, and how we could leverage social customer service. And at the end, we'll summarize everything and probably close this 3-session Service Cloud. I hope today's session helped you guys. So now I'll open for any questions that we might have. Let me jump into here and see if there are any questions. Anyone have any question on any of the items that we discussed today? Okay, so Irina is asking, is there any way to insert KB article, the knowledge base article, in the reply of your case that is not in the suggested list? There is a way, but it's just that it's not on the particular application that I was showing. That was there in Salesforce, where you could, the old version of Salesforce, not the classic, not the lightning. There was a hybrid version that was there, where you had that option of attaching that article into the email directly. and that attaches the article as a PDF. Saying so, there are ways, yes. So there are a few we could do some custom Lightning components which could get those articles. But I can show you something which is probably useful. What you could do is when you are emailing here, you can attach a file. So probably just, if you have the related files, you just have to have those files on your particular case so that you could find and attach it directly. It's a different workaround, but then it's not supported at this point of time in this particular uh, application that we are showing today. It used to be there in Salesforce. I'm pretty sure there will be very soon that would be there in here, but at this point of time, no, it's not there. The short answer. There are workarounds that we could obviously do to insert it. As a standard out of the box, it's not there. Okay. Any other question before we end the session? I think it's just 1 minute left. So if we don't have any further questions, I'll probably stop the recording, and you all have a nice rest of the day. Thank you all. Bye. Talk to you next session.